Well, New York Giant fans, we are spinning in the pit of misery once again. Like we have been for the past 12 years, I'd say. Good 12 years, right? Since 2012. Well, really after that, because the Giants were 8-8 in 2012. In 2013, I think they went to 6-10 or 7-9. Or they may have been, I don't think they were 8-8. But that started just the trend down of this franchise, and we're still in that trend down. The Giants are not a sustained winner. They will not be for an interesting period of time. And the Giants found ways to lose on Sunday. And I said it in the rant, which I appreciate you guys if you tuned in. The season is over, my opinion. I know a lot of people still have hope in the season. It's your prerogative, but I don't see how a win next week puts us back into contention of even being a competitive franchise compared to the rest of the NFL. Because if you win against the Browns, you're going into a slaughterhouse in your own building against the Cowboys on Thursday Night Football. The management of this roster is utter shit. It is incompetent. The coaching is beyond questionable. And when one thing goes wrong, one is right. And, like last game for the Giants, right? The Vikings game, everyone deserved blame. This is a game where you feel bad for the offense a little bit. Not that they were great, but they scored 3 touchdowns, and we all know why they only had 18 points. But stupid roster management. Stupid roster management that other franchises, they don't do stupid roster management like we do, right? The Jets, the Titans, the Bengals, the Chiefs, those teams don't do roster gymnastics like we do. And for some reason, in an all-in year where you need to fight for your job, roster gymnastics, yes. Like, comment, subscribe, share on podcast platforms, turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or a video drops. Appreciate you all coming back. You can check out the rant if you haven't already. If you're a new subscriber from the rant, share with your friends, your very angry Giant fan friends, and all that stuff. I'm going to go into the kicking stuff, offense, defense, any other things I have. I'm not going to touch on stats unless I need to. But trust me, it's not going to be a rant. It's just going to be a negative exhibition of energy on this football team because they really don't seem to do anything correctly. And, well, this is why we're 0-2, right? So let's go to last week, right? Let's go to last week. I was going to say this week, but last week the Giants played roster gymnastics, which, again, no other franchise in the NFL really does this. I've never seen anyone else do it. So they did roster gymnastics. They had 51 to 53 players on the 53-man roster. They elevated 2 guys, Coughlin and excuse me for the rumbling and jumbling, Ty Summers, both special teamers. And Micah McFadden, he was healthy, supposedly. By some, by others he was injured, but he was still active. Tell me how that quite makes sense, because it doesn't, right? The next thing, Isaiah Simmons, he's active, but he's not playing. Instead, it's Darius Musow next to Bobby Okereke, and he didn't have a good game other than the interception. He ends up having a knee injury, and he was out this past week. But the most of all, right, Gunnar Olszewski was dealing with a groin injury dating back to training camp. And guess what happened? He was still dealing with it, and I was actually a little concerned about it before the week of the game. And then we go to the week of the game, and I was going to ask John Schmelk, but John Schmelk couldn't come on. I'd be like, who's the backup return guy just in case Gunnar can't go? Well, it turns out they didn't have a backup return guy, and Gunnar Olszewski got hurt in pregame warmups. And the Giants had no return man, so it was a mixture of Tyrone Tracy and Darius Slayton and all these other different guys that they kept trotting out there. And, well, the Giants lost. It wasn't effectively because of special teams, but it was for a multitude of reasons. And then we go to week 2, right? Gano pops up Saturday on the injury report per Dan Salamone. Salomon says Gano has a groin injury, but he will play on Sunday. And I got the worry of, this doesn't smell good at all, because this smells like last year where the Giants mismanaged a kicker situation. They missed kicks against the Jets, and that effectively could have won us the game. Puts you up by a few scores in a couple of different situations. So I kept my mouth shut. Then we go to Sunday morning. Dan Duggan has a tweet that says, well, Graham Gano didn't look good in warmups. So I start tweeting in all caps, this franchise, inept, this, that, roster gymnastics. A lot of people saw my tweet. And then we get to the kickoff. Kickoff happens. They almost take it for a touchdown. It's a holding penalty. And trying to chase the kickoff, Graham Gano hurts his hamstring. And, well, we don't have a kicker for the rest of the game. Graham Gano, done. He's out with a hamstring injury for the next few weeks. Jamie Gillen came on once to attempt an extra point. He missed. And that was that. Inexcusable, deplorable, and absolute atrocious roster management by the New York Giants. It's not like last year, right, where you could kind of give an excuse. They didn't have a backup kicker on the roster. They had to, go elsewhere, which that whole situation was interesting, where they traded for Ned York. Was it Cade York or was it Ned York? I'm pretty sure it was Cade York, so my bad on that one. They trade for Cade York. They release him. They put him on the practice squad. Then they sign Randy Bullock, which was, again, odd. No other franchise does that. But it's not like last year, right, where they didn't have a backup kicker. They had a backup kicker on the roster. I should say the practice squad, and his name is Jude McAtomney. Now, I get it. He's an international player, and this, and that, and whatever. He was on the practice squad, and he made some pretty good kicks in the preseason. I think he even hit one from 50. So he was reliable enough to be put on the practice squad. And also, it does help to put in the notes that Graham Gano is 37 years old. So even if he said he's feeling okay after a groin injury, you best elevate Jude McAtomney. And again, the Giants had 52 guys this week, not 53, 52 on the active roster, right? So you have that. And McAtomney could have easily been signed. You let him go after the game, cut him, whatever, sign him back to the practice squad. Or how about this? You sign one of those guys that you elevated, Timon Fox or Ty Summers. You sign them to the active roster, and you elevate Jude McAtomney. Or you have somebody, just in case, like a Jamie Gillen, practice their kicks. And after he missed in the first quarter, there was no other attempt by Jamie Gillen. This hurt the Giants in a couple of different ways. Now, it didn't hurt him, in my opinion, as bad as the defense, but it did its job. Because the Giants left 6 confirmed points on the field. This is my logic. This is my opinion. 3 extra point attempts were bad. 2 missed 2-point attempts. You also had the first missed extra point by Jamie Gillen. So that's 3 points, right? If we take away the Commanders' field goal that they did at the end of the game, so it'll be 18-18, put that 3 up for us, we lead 21-18. Now, that 4th and 3, we go back to where Malik Neighbors drops the ball. Should have dropped it, but I'm not going to get on a rookie who accounted for 71% of Daniel Jones' yardage. Okay? You don't even put him in that situation. The Giants are good in their territory. I think they were at the 23, 24-yard line. And you send on Jude McAtomney. It is not even a 50-yard field goal. It is a chip shot. It is a chip shot field goal. Most kickers can make that. If you can't, that's a real problem. So, that situation, if Brian Dable's not feeling aggressive, 3 points. Because that changes perspectives. You don't even have to go another 3 points. First of all, that's 24 at that point in the game. 3, and then extra 3. That's 24-18 at the time. Now, you could say, okay, well, they're still down by 6. They need to score a touchdown. Right. But at the end of the day, you don't have to sit. In devil's advocate mode, you can defend back like the Giants have been doing the past 2 games and play soft zone. You could play that coverage and basically just tackle in bounds. Make sure your tackling is good and have them waste the clock. Because I know in the first quarter they weren't very good with timeout management. Second half, they were a lot better with it. But, it doesn't matter. That's all hypotheticals. So, shame on Brian Dable. Shame on Joe Schoen. The fact that we're playing roster gymnastics, the Giants have cap space. At least, I think, manageable cap space. I can't have a number for you guys. I don't have a number. Someone said 10 plus million. I don't know about that. I think it's probably around, I'm going to say between 5 and 7. That's just my guess. But it's not like we're trying to sign veterans here. We're trying to sign scrubs. We're trying to do roster gymnastics for scrubs, right? Carter Coughlin was cut. Curtis Bolton was signed, and then he was cut. Jakob Johnson was signed. Like, what are you doing? This is not NFL level management. This is Pee Wee management. This is CFL management. This is Arena Football League management. Hell, they probably manage it a lot better over in those leagues. So, shame on Brian Dable. And then he said, he got really defensive with Jordan Renan in the postgame because there were at least, 70, 80% questions about the kicker. Got defensive with Renan. He said that he felt bad for us, meaning the team, because Gano got injured. Well, you should have had that extra kicker. But no excuses, he said. Well, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And you're 0-2 and your team is soft. They're soft, guys. I mean, let's put it that way. They are a soft team. I'm not taking any moral victory laps and all this shit. Oh, they played a better game or they played a good... No. This is the Commanders. This is a team that's rebuilding, new coaching staff, new GM, new ownership. They are taking their moral victories while they could have them. And this is a victory, not just a moral victory for them. And for us, it's another loss in the books. And, yeah. So, good job. Once again, Joe Schoen, Brian Dable. Graham Gano's going to be out for a few weeks. They tried out a couple of kickers today. Zane Gonzalez was one of them. Tanner Brown was another. Randy Bullock, and I am missing one more. Riley Patterson. So, Brown was a kicker this preseason with the Los Angeles Rams. Randy Bullock we saw last year. Zane Gonzalez, he hasn't kicked since 21, which scares the living bejesus out of me. And Riley Patterson, I think he was 44 or 46 last year or something like that. I don't know his career stats, but I know the accuracy is pretty good. So if he's not injured, I would go after Riley Patterson, my personal opinion. And also he's younger. He's not 30 years old kicker. No, he's probably in his 20s. So let's go to the offense, right, before we unload on the defense. And I'm not going to rant on the defense, but I'm going to illustrate my thoughts in a very emotional way, but also analytical and, logical. So the offense had only 22 minutes of time possession. They had 3 possessions in the first quarter. I wonder how much possessions they had through the rest of the game. Let's take a look, right? Team stats, which would be under drives. They had 4 possessions in the second half, 3 in the first half. That doesn't get it done because, well, guess what? You had 22 and a half minutes of time possession. Thank you, defense. And the Giants didn't look bad on offense. They were not NFL Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, Matt Stafford caliber, but they looked like a functional, semi-functional offense. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go on the roundabout and just talk about how good Daniel Jones was because I'm not a moral victory guy. This is supposed to be one of the better offenses in the league with the offensive line, with the wide receivers upgraded. That was supposed to help the quarterback out. Now, I'm not going to sit here and blame DJ too. I have my feelings reserved on Daniel Jones. I know the way I feel towards Daniel Jones and what the Giants should do with him. But this offense could have came away with 24 points, had a kicker been in the game, and you would have been saying, okay, well, the Giants only kicking 1 field goal, that's progress. They scored 3 touchdowns. I mean, When was the last time the Giants actually scored 3 touchdowns? On offense. I'm not talking special teams. I'm not talking about defense. When was the last time the Giants actually scored 3 touchdowns? It's getting tough. The Rams game, no, because they had a gunner touchdown. May have been the Eagles game. Because remember Slayton having a catch, Barkley having a catch, and there was another touchdown. I think it was Barkley rushing touchdown. So I'm going to say it was against the Eagles in the late stages last year. So there's that. This game really made me fall in love with Malik Neighbors. And I know he's just a rookie and a lot of things could happen. But I haven't really felt this excited about a receiver since Odell Beckham Jr., my personal opinion. Now, we know what Saquon did when he was here. He was great and all that stuff. But this guy got 127 receiving yards on 10 catches, 12.7 yards per catch, 1 touchdown, and his longest catch was 28 yards. And the fact, obviously, he got his first touchdown. I was very happy about that because obviously we know what, right? We know what Daniel Jones is sometimes with his targets. He had 18 targets, Malik Neighbors. 18 targets for a rookie. That's got to set some record, man. I know Brandon Marshall has the record for catches in a game, but 18 targets for a rookie? Daniel Jones, with all due respect, and Brian Dable need to spread it out to the other receivers so Malik Neighbors is not feeling the pressure every single time. Because what's going to happen is they are going to double him at some point or put a really good corner on him in press coverage. Now, they didn't really do some great coverages here, Washington specifically. They did try to double him towards the end of the game. And Daniel Jones really didn't do a great job of getting those deep balls to him because he did miss 1 or 2. And of course, again, Neighbors had the drop and so many, other different things that caused the 8 incompletions. But you just see the dynamicness in the league Neighbors, right? If this is a better offense in the future, whoever the coach is, he will be a dynamic playmaker, and a lot of people will be sleeping on him because he's with a bad team. That's just the way it is. And that, like with Waller, you couldn't really tell. Kadarius Toney had 1 good game. Kenny Golladay, I don't think he sniffed 100 yards. Maybe against the Saints. Maybe. But Neighbors, he's a young kid, and it's sustainable. Not sustainable in the sense of get him the ball every single rep because they will double him. But it's sustainable that he can be this type of receiver for the Giants offense beyond this season. And I have to talk like that because the season's over in my opinion, but I'm just saying. Malik Neighbors, he is a threat. I love that. If our quarterback could do a little bit more, if our coach could do a little bit more in the offense, I would like to see what a couple of different other guys could do. Darius Slayton, he had a drop in the end zone for that 2-pointer. Not really happy about that. Wan'Dale Robinson, I like him. He's a little tweener, kind of like Wan'Dale Robinson. One thing I got to complain about on offense, man, is what the fuck is going on with Jalen Hyatt? This guy was a 3rd-round pick that you traded up for. You traded up for a 3rd-round pick in Jalen Hyatt. And somehow he's not sniffing the field. Now, apparently he got 21 snaps in the game. He got 21 snaps in the game. I think this was a Dan Duggan thing. Yeah, let's see. Jalen Hyatt, 21%. My bad. He had 12 snaps in the entire game. If somebody could go out there and measure how many of those were run-blocking snaps, I'd like to know. Here's my problem with the usage on offense. And I'm not going to say this is sabotage or any of that other bullshit. But the tight ends are not getting involved to a point where it's just interesting, right? Because they're not putting Hyatt on the field. They have 2 tight end sets with Johnson and Manhurts and Bellinger and Manhurts. Bellinger is getting the raw end of the stick for some reason. I really don't know why. That's a little disappointing from Brian Dable. I would love to hear why. But you're putting out these two tight end sets with Theo Johnson and Chris Manhertz. Manhertz should not be playing 46% of the snaps. Sorry, that's your third tight end on the roster. Maybe it's Bellinger now. But cutting to the point, I know you're trying to go heavy at sometimes to like confuse the defense, and you're going heavy to confuse the defense that you're maybe passing it when you're running it or vice versa, or I don't know. But you're not even getting the Titans involved. Like, Theo Johnson has not gotten involved. I think he's got, 2 catches on the season for limited amount of yards. And I thought in training camp, like, this kid's good. He's got speed. He's got some muscle. But they're not using him. So, over the next few weeks, again, this has turned into a developmental stage for me. I'd like to see Theo Johnson involved. I'd like to see somebody else involved because when Malik Neighbors gets locked up, it's going to happen one game. Daniel Jones is not going to know where to go with the football. So, decent game by Daniel Jones. That's 20-22 level offense. Malik Neighbors, love him. He accounted for 71% of the yards by Daniel Jones and through the air. I thought the offensive line blocked really well. Now, I don't have the statistics as far as who gave up what pressures and whatnot, but the offensive line, man, that's one compliment I will give Joe Shane because he fucked it up originally, but I will give him the compliment of the offensive line. Bringing in Van Roten, he hasn't been great, but it's not a unit where, oh my God, everybody besides Andrew Thomas is shitting the bed. We know that Runyon and who else? Van Roten, those guys are primarily pass blockers. But you see the Giants running these duo concepts, all of this and that. They're not running crack toss or anything to the side. It's all up the middle, and Washington really, for the most part, couldn't stop it. Now, I hated the fumble by Singletary. I thought he had a really good game. I hated the fumble by Singletary because that was driving down the field, kind of a momentum killer. But let's see. You take off 22 from 95. So 22-95, that's 73 yards. And you take off a rush, that's 15, right? That's 4.8 yards per carry. Take out his longest run of the day. That's not bad. When has a Giants offensive line blocked like that for a running back? When? I mean, the last time you could probably say is maybe Saquon in 22 or Wayne Gallman in 20. But this is a unit of established vets. They're playing really well on a consistent basis. And you have to credit that also to Carmen Brasillo. You have to credit him there because he's had this unit in check. And sometimes, like you heard last week, he was complaining a little bit that they need to tune up some things. I'm like, dude, your unit is the best on this team. Like, when was the last time we said the O-line is the best unit on this team? Maybe outside the wide receivers, but the wide receivers is a little shaky. When was the last time to say the offensive line was the best unit on this team? I don't remember. So, offensive line, Singletary, minus the fumble. Malik Neighbors, you guys deserve your flowers. Jones played an efficient game. I want to see what he does against the Cleveland Browns. All right, so we go to my least favorite part of this team, which happens to be the defense. And again, I'm going to stroke the string of the guitar. I was a big Wink fan last year. A big fan of his defense when he came in. I thought that he had some bad things to say, and he had some fault in the Dable drama that happened last year. But at the end of the day, the offense was so incompetent that Brian Dable didn't want it showing up on the scoreboard how bad it was. So he wanted Wink to play soft zone, and basically he wanted to play Bowen's defense. He wanted him to play Bowen's style of defense. So that didn't turn out well, and we all know what happened. Bowen, third or fourth higher on the list. Guys like Mike McDonald and other new head coaches didn't want anything to do with him. Maybe he had one interview. I don't remember him interviewing for a lot of jobs. But he interviewed with the Giants job. They didn't take Jason Simmons, who guaranteed would have been a first-time DC. They didn't take Jerome Henderson, same situation as Jason Simmons, but they took Shane Bowen. And I believe Shane Bowen got his fame from Mike Vrabel, who very well could be the next head coach of the Giants. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't have a 8-ball or any, future-telling device. But through 2 games, I have already given up on the defense. The first game, I already gave up on the defense, right? I didn't say anything in the preseason. I didn't say shit. But week 1 had me pissed. Week 2 basically confirms my feelings about this defense. Don't tell me, oh, you got to give it a few more weeks. No, fuck that shit. I will start on a positive, though. Drew Phillips and Tyler Nubin, Micah McFadden, those guys are studs. So credit Joe Shane there. Guy I'm really not happy with. Drew Phillips is a dog. He has a nose for the football. And that's the one thing I like about Bowen's scheme is they're putting him in good position. Now, defensively, as far as snaps go, where did Phillips rank? Drew Phillips. He, 92% of the snaps. That's really good compared to last week where he didn't have much. So Drew Phillips, I happen to like him. Nose for the football. His tackling seems to have gotten better. He's a force. Hopefully we get a defensive coordinator in the future who knows how to utilize him. Nubin didn't have a spectacular game like last game, but he's still a growing stud. And Micah McFadden was pretty much, except for that one play where he missed the sack on Jaden Daniels, he was good, man. Micah McFadden was good. He was all over the field. Love to see that. But back into negativity. Sorry. I said with this defensive philosophy, and Patrick Graham wanted to blitz when he was here. He didn't have the personnel, and the Giants were also that bad of an offense while Patrick Graham was here. They weren't last 2 years level, but they were bad. And that's one thing. Shane Bowen, his defensive philosophy is letting the offense do circles around the defense all the way down the field and stopping them in the red zone. I said it in my rant. I said 2 things. Number 1, this guy prizes his resume off of a red zone percentage and the fact that they probably don't give up too many points. That's bad because, red zone defense is great. You really can't frame red zone defense badly. But when you look at time of possession, that's where you could frame badly. And the fact is the Giants had limited time on offense this game. Limited time on offense. 37 minutes on the field for the defense. You can't get it done. You cannot get it done. The Giants let them run down the field, do whatever, the dink and dunk passes, the this and the that, whatever. Right? The Giants got the ball back, I think, with 4 minutes left to go in the first quarter. Usually you get the ball back earlier. But for whatever reason it is, the Giants lacked aggressiveness on defense yet again. Shane Bowen made no adjustments. And there were times the blitz was getting there. Jason Pinnock, I think, had 2 sacks. He wasn't overall great because he had a holding penalty or 2. But there were guys in the blitz getting there. We'll talk about the edges. But there were guys in the blitz getting there, and Jaden Daniels couldn't do anything with it. This is a guy who, his first read, if it's not there, he's struggling. And Jaden Daniels will get better as an NFL quarterback. I'm not trying to shit on him. But those were some of the issues coming out of college, right, with Jaden Daniels. Besides the fact that sometimes he needs to learn to slide, which inevitably got him hurt when he got clocked in the ribs. I don't know who clocked him in the ribs, but he came back in the game after Driscoll had 1 or 2 reps. But 37 minutes on the field, that does not get it done. You cannot, at any point in the NFL history, you cannot win a game like that. You can't. It's impossible. If you're a ground and pound team from the 80s, the 90s, if you're one of these pass-happy teams like the Chiefs or the Dallas Cowboys, whatever philosophy you have offensively or as a team, you cannot give up 37, almost 38 minutes in time of possession. And I don't give a shit if you give up 20 points or you give up 30 points or 40 points. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, if your offense doesn't score every drive, and we know this offense can't score every drive, then you are in deep trouble. You are in deep trouble. Let's talk about this next one. The Giants gave up 7 third down conversions. It's really 9 if you think about it. 14 attempts on third down. So I will credit a little bit this Giants defense sending the Washington Commandos in a third down situation, but it's not like they did spectacular, right? 3rd and 9, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 1 again, 3rd and 13 twice on the same drive, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 1, and 3rd and 5. Now, my thing is this, right? With Wink, he would send a blitz on a 3rd down and long, and sometimes it'd be a screenplay and we'd be fucked. That's where I had an issue with Wink Martindale. However, this scheme where you're not doing much of anything at all and you're letting the offense take what you are giving them for a substantial amount of time, and your offense on the other side of the football is not good, that, again, it kind of plays hand in hand with this time of possession thing. 3rd down, you're giving up monstrous amounts of yards. 3rd and 13 twice on the same drive. 3rd and 8. Not to mention, I think one of those was an Andrew Phillips penalty, which is bullshit because Ertz ran right into him. That was a bad call. And then Jason Pinnock also got tagged with the holding penalty. So there's that. You cannot allow these cats to rape you on 3rd down. Now, let's check something, folks. Let's check something. I'm going to do it live here. 3rd down conversion percentage for the opponent. Where do the Giants rank? Where do the Giants rank? Well, as of September 16th, and currently the Falcons game is playing, the Giants allowed, I think, let's see, the stats say 41% on 3rd, right? That's 23rd in the NFL, which isn't good. I don't want to be down there. Last game, they allowed 50% on 3rd down. And again, put in the situations where the Giants got tagged for penalties. So if you think about it, they were worse on 3rd down in this game than they were in last game. And they were even forcing the Vikings into 3rd down. At least I don't think so. Because I know there was either it was the Giants last game or the Vikings last game. It was like 18 3rd downs and one team converted 7 of 18. I don't think it was the Giants, so I'm going to say it was the Vikings. So 3rd down defense, and again, it goes to no adjustments because usually if something works and you don't go off of it, that was me pretty much this whole blitzing thing, right? You were blitzing on a couple of different downs and you got sacks. Funny enough how you were supposed to spy with Simmons and all these other different scenarios, just didn't get it done. One of the many flaws of this defense. I'm going to go after 2 guys who are very much underwhelming expectations. I don't give a crap what anyone says. The Giants had 5 sacks, none of them by defensive linemen or edge players. McFadden, Pinnock, Okereke, and Drew Phillips. I believe Pinnock had 2. So credit to him. He's that fringe box guy. He kind of always has been with the Giants, even with Wink stays. Well, you have a 5th overall pick in Kayvon Tibbs. You have a almost $30 million rusher in Brian Burns. And week 1, people gave them a pass. Oh, this tackle duo was really good for the Vikings. They didn't show up. They barely showed up against the run. And they proceeded to do the same thing this week where they didn't show up against the run. Mind you, I said with Corey on the show, I think it was either on his show or he was on my show, I said, are you worried this week, right? Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns going up against your tackles. He wasn't that concerned. And Corey, my friend, you are right. Because the Giants got dick. I don't care if Tibbs, he got close. Or Burns had a strong game. Well, we didn't pay Burns almost $30 million to sit there and have a strong game and not have a sack. I know that there are some guys around the NFL circles that like to dissect film, and sometimes it's, you're getting paid this amount of money, and you just have to look at the film, the dirty work, and all this stuff. Well, for $30 million, you should be able to see that Burns is wrecking a game. And it's not like you're facing the 49ers. This is the Washington Commanders, where this team is in a rebuild stage. Their tackles are average at best in this league. And you're telling me Brian Burns could not dominate this game. What is the spark? When is the spark going to come along? What is the spark? And as for Kayvon, Mr. I don't want to answer questions. I mean, like, you're not living up. It's that simple. We had this conversation last year. 11 and a half sacks. And a lot of people were still coming to the realization, this guy's not a number one edge. So you had to get him a Robin or a Batman, if you will. And I said it when Wink got fired that he's going to regress in this defense because he's going to face more one-on-one matchups like a traditional edge, and he's not going to win those matchups. If anything, the best edge was fucking Azeez Ojulari, and he had 2 TFLs. I mean, Kayvon had 2 TFLs and 2 quarterback hits, but, they were not too impactful. I mean, I think he had 1 hit that was like a good impacted play. Burns had a sack that would have been, but a bullshit penalty on Andrew Phillips. But at the end of the day, man, results matter. You can't say, the ifs, the ands, the buts, the ors. No. What happens on the field, what happens on the field, what happens on the film, what happens on the film, what happens on the box score, what happens on the box score. They did not get sacks. Watching the film, watching the game, they were non-existent. And that is a shame because we were saying all offseason, this is going to be a vaunted defense, a vaunted front seven. Well, guess what, folks? Kayvon Thibodeau and Burns haven't shown up the last 2 weeks. Don't know what to tell you. Also, the Giants need a DT2 next to Dexter Lawrence. The Giants are going to get figured out, if not sooner than later. Next week they will, no matter what, against Cleveland. Dallas might throw it all over the house, depending. But Dexter Lawrence can't fend for himself, and the DT depth is just trash. It is just trash behind Dex because it's just not good, right? Elijah Chapman's not doing much, and he was the favorite in the preseason, but at the end of the day, he might be just an NFL backup. Jordan Riley and DJ Davidson haven't done too much. Nacho hasn't done too much. So at the end of the day, Joe Shane, another miscalculation, right? We said in the draft, maybe you ought to go out and draft another DT to put alongside Dex, like a Devondre Sweat or something. And at the end of the day, I think Devondre Sweat was there when Theo Johnson was the pick, I think, because I know Devondre Sweat had that DUI of some sorts. But, we're not getting Theo Johnson involved now, so I don't know. It just seems like these weird picks that the Giants make. And one thing I'm going to talk about to end off the defense before we get to some sum up closing thoughts, because I don't want to waste all your time, is we signed Adoree Jackson, right? Nick McLeod is out, and the Giants don't learn from their mistakes. I don't know if this is a Bowen thing. I don't know if this is a Brian Dable thing. You're in a pivotal moment. You need a defensive stop, right? You need a defensive stop. In a pivotal moment against Noah Brown, you put Cordell Flott in, and you have him playing super off, and he still gets beat. You signed Adoree Jackson. I don't understand what more we need to ramp this guy up. Cordell Flott literally did a 360. You guys watched the film. I know Adoree got beat earlier in the game, but there was no pass thrown, so it doesn't really matter. But, I mean, you look at the film, look at the play where Noah Brown eviscerates Cordell Flott. And this is not the first time we've seen this, folks. We saw it in training camp. So I don't understand this philosophy of trying to justify a draft pick and having him as an outside corner in his own system, which he does not fit. It's a mess. It's a mess. Like, at least if you're going to put him in a zone system or somebody in a zone system or somebody is CB2, put Trey Hawkins out there. Somebody who we know has room to grow or is going to be a decent player for what they are. Trey Hawkins could be that. Cordell Flott's not. He was a third-round pick, a failed third-round pick. He can't play slot. He can't play the outside in a man system. Zone system. And the Giants are not playing man, so he's drafted for the right scheme, but wrong position, and he's not even in the right scheme anymore. But why are we justifying the draft pick? I don't understand. You probably could have cut him for chips. But that's the problem with Joe Shane, is that most of his 2022 class looks like dog shit. Tibbs underperforming. Neal not even playing. Azudu sucks. Cordell Flott not good. Bellinger not even playing. McFadden is probably the best player in that draft who's living up to hype. So Now, here's what I'm going to say to end it off, because, again, I want to get you guys out of here. If I'm making all these predictions to answer y'all's questions, chances of winning Cleveland, I think before we go on this hellhole of Dallas, Seattle, Cincinnati, Philly, I think Cleveland is a winnable game. Mind you, I think it's a winnable game. I think Deshaun Watson is a little off his rocker. Their defense is good, which I'm scared about, because Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward are pretty good players. So let's just say the Giants do win that game. You're facing a hellhole of a schedule, and let's see. The Giants, let's just say they start, 1-2. So lose against Dallas. Lose against Seattle. That might be a winnable game, but lose against Seattle just for, scenario's sake. Lose against the Bengals. Lose against the Eagles. And then you face the Steelers. You lose those games. So you have a 5-game losing streak, right? You're 1-2, 5 games. You're 1-7, which is probably, I think, the worst record, could be the worst record under Dable yet. And then you face, I think you come back to face Washington the next. Or you might have a game in between. I don't have the full schedule memorized. But at that point, it just seems like Brian Dable's a dead duck. In my opinion, if the Giants are at least competitive, first of all, they have to win this week. My thoughts on the season, I'm not going to reiterate it. But if they win this week, they have to at least be competitive against Dallas to say, okay, Brian Dable gets a little bit of a leash on his job. Because if they get their asses beat by Dallas on Thursday Night Football in their own building, their stadium is taken over by Cowboy fans, Daniel Jones is getting benched, and he doesn't play well against Dallas, so don't give me that shit. He doesn't play well against Dallas, gets benched for Drew Lock, Brian Dable gets fired. That's my opinion. And then you will see probably Mike Kafka come in, try to coach for his job, another job elsewhere, and that's where the locker room is going to just ease out. Dexter Lawrence is here for another couple of years, Andrew Thomas here for a couple of years, some impending free agents. But I think the season's over, as I said. I don't want to reiterate that 100 times. But, I feel like Cleveland and losing that game rips the Band-Aid off sooner. I'm not saying for Brian Dable to be fired after Cleveland. I think he'd be probably fired after Dallas. But with that said, man, I don't know. This team has me numb to all the bullshit that I've been dealing through the last few years. Like, comment, subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or video drops. I appreciate y'all coming back. Share this out on podcast platforms. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. Peace out. See you later. Stay cool. And I'll say this every time. Keep your blood pressure low. For my sake, your sake. Don't let your blood pressure go high because of the New York Giants. Peace out, y'all.